Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Today I'm with Yakir, and he is the CEO of Acrivos. Yakir, tell us a little about yourself and the company.
Thank you, DeAngelo. It's great to be here. So Acrivos is an IT and technology services company. We're based out of the Metro New York City area. We've been around for about 2 years, and we're really taking off, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. Tell us a little bit more about who you actually serve and what you guys actually do in the IT space.
So we serve small to medium business IT companies within the Metro New York City areas. We have a focus on healthcare. So both my partner Jason and I have a deep background in healthcare. We're passionate about healthcare. We've done just about any kind of healthcare business within healthcare. With that being said, we really wanted to bring that IT experience, and not just the experience of IT, like, sort of the traditional IT, but also things that are adjacent or, things that are really technology within healthcare. So we're really passionate about not just elevating IT for our clients, but elevating the entire technology program for our clients. So our extensive experience within healthcare really gives us the ability to bring thought leadership, technology, optimization, and IT services, compliance services to our clients.
Awesome, awesome. Now, most MSP founders kind of come from like the engineering side of things, right? You came from healthcare operations in management. How did your journey go from that to starting your own MSP that serves healthcare, you know what I mean, companies?
Yeah, sure. So I actually have a mix of experience in that regard. So my first job was straight out of, IT school, was being employee number two at an MSP based out of Brooklyn. So that was actually a really great foundational experience. Like in within that MSP, I've built out, part of their core technical core set tool set, sorry. And, after doing that for about a year and a half, I kind of had an itch to see what it is like to work internal at a company, just, set up one company really well. So at that time, I joined a different healthcare clinic based out of Brooklyn. I started in help desk. So, just doing your standard help desk things, but they had an opening to system administration, and I knew they were hiring into a sysadmin role. So I was in no way qualified to be a sysadmin yet. I just did not have enough experience. But I
Mhm.
went to uh, our manager and their COO, and I was like, if you just give me 6 months, I'll fit myself into that position. So those were nights that I just would be in the office until late, really learn the server network and engineering side of things. And then eventually, I kind of was promoted to that, within that role. And from there, after doing that for a few years, I really became more curious, not, about not not just sort of the infrastructure side of IT, which is very important in and itself, but also what are ways that technology can really elevate a healthcare company, bring a better experience for their doctors, for their providers, for their patients, can really increase their bottom line and help them be more profitable. And that organization that I was with was a not-for-profit, so that was also impactful. Like they didn't have like a very high budget. So it was, always trying to figure out how to do more with less. So that's really when I started getting into the application side of things and really understanding the different technologies. How do we make patient intake more efficient? How do we make documentation more efficient for providers so they don't have to spend their pajama time doing their notes? How do we make the billing process more automated and more efficient? So then I did that for a couple of years. So I ended up getting like a really rounded um, a background within healthcare IT. So at that time, I went and I started a healthcare IT consulting firm. I did that for a year or two. It wasn't my healthcare. I was just I was CTO at that company. So we did that for about 2 to 3 years. That was during the COVID era. So definitely, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of healthcare action within. There's a lot of action within healthcare during the COVID era. So that was just, you know, long sleepless nights trying to figure out how to get urgent cares to process all their COVID tests, arranging COVID vaccine drives for just 1,000 people to be able to come and get their COVID vaccines, but then also do all the documentation and the reporting to the state. So that was like a really interesting and good experience. And then doing that in a consulting role gave me a lot of experience, not just in the technical side of things, but also in the business side of things. So my partner, Jason, who you have spoken to in a previous
Hmm.
episode of your podcast, also has had decades of experience working with healthcare. So both of us got together and we're now really focused on building out a uh, really a IT service that would be very valuable to healthcare organizations. So alluding to your question, it was really a mix of technical experience, engineering experience, and then IT management experience and consulting experience.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, are you guys exclusively healthcare?
I We haven't turned away anyone. So
Hmm.
our motto is if we can do healthcare, we can do most businesses. So
Hmm.
we'll often do, we have clients in real estate, we have clients in manufacturing, but a lot of our sales and marketing efforts go towards healthcare.
Healthcare.
If there's
Okay.
something that is way outside our, normal.
Mm, mm, mm. Healthcare is a very compliance heavy environment. How does one begin if they want to niche down into healthcare and they're an MSP? What would be something that you would tell them about getting into to that market?
So that's the other service providers that would want to get into the healthcare market.
Correct.
Right. So, I mean, it's all knowledge. It's the HIPAA compliance code is up there on whatever the respective site is. So I think there's a couple of different components to it. So you specifically asked about compliance. So compliance is just something you need to learn, right? But there's compliance, and then I've once heard a good analogy where, um, let's just say you're taking a baby on a motorcycle.
Hmm.
There's safety and there's compliance. It might be legal to take a baby on a motorcycle, and that's your compliance. Like if you put on a seatbelt, if you put on a baby seat on a motorcycle, potentially that's within the law, but it's not safe, right? So there's cybersecurity is that safety angle, and then compliance is that legality or risk management, sort of aspect. So then there's the other portion. Once you kind of get compliance down, is really just understanding the responsibility, right? That you can be checking off all the boxes, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for protecting patient data. Now, there's really two stakeholders there. There's the patients, whose data it is our duty to protect. And then there's also the provider where if something does happen, if they do get breached, then, you're not on the hook as an MSP if your agreement is done correctly. It's the provider that's on the hook. So you have a responsibility to your customer, to your client, to not just be compliant, but really also to keep them safe. Then there is something that I'm very passionate about, which is really just taking the wide scope of what is IT within healthcare. So,
Hmm.
there's the IT that we all know and love, which is, fixing the printers, getting the firewall set up, picking up the phone when they call you. So that's important, right? But to a provider, IT will be significantly more than just that. It'll be what is their medical record system look like? Is it operating smoothly? Is it their patients when their patients are trying to, request a medication refill? How are they doing that? Are they doing that through the phone? Are they going into a portal? So really just taking to a provider, that's all healthcare IT. Like when you ask a provider what's IT, they have a wider scope of just what the printer is. So to me, that's really a
Mm,
differentiator is really
mm.
understanding the industry and understanding the technology by really helping them with a full scope of their IT. So there's compliance, there's cybersecurity, and then there's also just the industry technology of healthcare.
Now, Jason told me on our past episode that we had that your network has kind of been the primary growth driver and that you're signing quite a few clients, every other week. How did you build your network? And at what point do you think you'll need something else beyond the network to keep pace going?
That's a great question. And I would say that one of our core values, and not just at Acrivos, both from our internal days to across the different places that we've, done healthcare IT consulting, was really to help people, to care about people, whether those people are your vendors, whether those people are your clients, whether those people are your staff, whether those people are the staff of your clients, right? Like, just basically treat people with respect, try to be helpful, care for them, care for, their day, care for their technology, care for their IT. So if you do that for long enough, you make a lot of friends, right? You end up, you know, if you help someone once, good chances that next time they have a problem, they'll call you back, right? So just by, that I wouldn't say that was like a strategy all along. It was just kind of how I operated. So, but
Uh-huh.
then over the years, that kind of compounded. So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of like the network effect of all that. But having said that, I've also gotten to a place where we definitely want to have a little bit more control over our pipeline and,
Uh-huh.
not just wait for things to come, word of mouth or out of your network. So we've been investing more in other lead generation strategies where we're building out the sales department at Acrivos. We're building
Awesome.
out some interesting technology programs at Acrivo. So it's not just about, what is it, what's your strategy for finding people, but more importantly, what is our value offering to them so that when we
Mhm.
do get in front of someone, that there's just like a really compelling proposition to them. Um,
Mhm.
so never, let go of your network. Your network is very important. Your network will come of use to you, over and over again. But that was a great startup strategy. That was just like a great strategy for the first, 1 to 2 years. And that's
Mhm.
still something that I just out of passion, I'm going to lean into. I like helping people in my network. But
Mhm.
then beyond that, we also want to kind of like build out, you know, cast the net a little bit wider and really, bring some rocket fuel to Acrivos. So we've been building out our sales department.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I was told that you are a builder, so I bet that you're doing a great job on building that kind of sales department. Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek of what you guys are doing? A lot of other MSPs struggle with being able to build a consistent pipeline of clients, where they kind of struggle with feast and famine a little bit, right? They get a client here and there. What client acquisition channels are you guys investing to, and where are you guys seeing success at?
Right. So first of all, I'm not the only builder. We've surrounded ourselves with a team of builders. I would say
Uh-huh.
everyone in the management of Acrivos in and of itself could build their own MSP, but then when we get together, it's like 1 + 1 = 10. So that's been part of the
Uh-huh.
magic really is the people. I
Uh-huh.
think when the management team, when the executive team of Acrivos gets in front of people, that sells, right? Now, as far as client acquisition strategies, I mean, I think there's really like two or three elements to it, right? One
Mhm.
element is like we were saying before, you wait for people to come to you. Well, that's not really much of an acquisition strategy. That's just like a luck or biding your time kind of strategy. So then the second component of that is just getting in front of people, just getting your name out there, just getting your offer out there to people, right? Now, the third element of that is when you are getting in front of people, what is your value proposition to them? They're busy. They've been pitched to already 10 times today. So
Mhm.
what is it that you're offering to them to kind of get them, kind of talking to you? Um, and then once we have people talking to us, then at that point, between Jason, myself, and our management team, typically once people start talking to us, they want to do business with us. So that's another component is, how do you operate? What are your core values? So that once you get to serve a client, they stick with you because there's no point in acquiring a client if they're not happy with your services. So building a good
Mhm.
platform, building a good team will not only help retain clients, but will, further get the name out there in, by way of referral, get you clients. So we've onboarded someone on the first few days of April, and within 3 to 4 days, they were just so impressed with how we handled the onboarding process that they just brought us another client.
Mhm.
So that's the another component of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, people do business with who they like. So if you treat somebody and just how you said the onboarding process was so good, he was impressed. He had to get someone else with you guys, right? That goes a long way. Now, I love how you kind of brought up, value proposition, right? A lot of MSPs, they come from a technical background, so they don't really understand what a good value proposition looks like or what a good offer is, right? How have you guys came up with an offer that most businesses see extreme value in, and what does that value proposition look like?
Yeah, great question. So it starts by looking, sort of starting backwards from looking at IT and technology through your client's eyes, right? And
Mhm,
to your clients, they're running a business, they're running an operation. They're trying to increase their revenue. They are trying to keep their so that they can so they can pay themselves and make their business more valuable. They're trying to scale their teams, right? And those are things that you are looking through. If you're looking through the lens of your clients, hopefully you're seeing that, right? So versus, right, where let's take the IT industry as an example,
mhm,
right? If we look at our offerings through our lens, we want simplicity. We want something that's easy to scale. We want to maybe like narrow down what it is that we do. So we do that one thing very well, right? So crafting a good value proposition is really, taking a moment to stop looking out of your lens and looking at it really through your client lens. So what we've done, our focus here has been really to hone in on what is it that we know best, right? We
mhm,
have a executive team that has a combined 40 years of healthcare experience. So that's why we've been focusing on healthcare, because it's just something that we understand very well, not only at a technology level, but also at a business level. The business level is important because that helps us really understand how does technology I say specifically technology, not just IT, how does technology help healthcare businesses be successful? And we've identified a program that really assesses all those sort of technology points where technology helps a healthcare business be more successful, and that is our offering to our client is we will work with our clients to run through there's the basics of IT management. um I mean, just consider this is something that's purely IT, right?
mhm,
Consider a doctor's day, right? If a doctor needs IT support versus an accountant sitting at their desk needs IT support, right? A doctor that needs IT support is in and out of the room, going from patient to patient. They have, 15 minutes, then they have 30 seconds, then they have 15 minutes, right? So I've been at other MSPs where they're trying to reach a doctor, but they can never reach the doctor because the doctor is always in the room with the patient. So how do you reach a doctor? We've built a service that makes it really convenient for doctors to be able to just call our hotline and say, "Hey, I have like 90 seconds right now between patients. Can you help me with this real quick?" So that is just like a IT, kind of difference in how healthcare operates, right? But then there's things that
mhm,
are a little bit more niche, like, what EMR system are they using? And so once you get into that, there's really a lot of areas within their, application, within their line of business application that really make a difference. Patients, do their patients like to self-schedule? Do their patients like to call in? Are they getting, a lot of insurance denials, which holds up their payments just because, maybe the way they scan their insurance cards are not optimized or not done well.
mhm,
So really bringing it back to your question of how do we position our value to be um, sort of like to get us to a place where um, people just can't say no, is really to
mhm,
look their business, look how technology affects their business, and then not just manage their IT, but manage their technology and help them optimize not just their IT, but their technology. So
mhm,
that's really very much how we've approached it. And it's very much born out of us working internally at
mhm,
healthcare organizations, getting a real understanding of what matters, how it looks like from their end. So, and then
mhm,
bringing that to small to medium healthcare practices that maybe cannot afford a full team, that cannot afford to have just a data analyst to tell them how much time
mhm,
does it take from when a patient walks in till a patient walks out. Is the patient getting stuck in the room for 30 minutes? Those are things that a hospital system has a data analyst that can
Mhm.
give them that information, right? But just someone running a healthcare practice, or even a 50, even like a 10 to 20 provider practice, might not have the resources to have that kind of analytics, which hurts their business. So finding those areas, improving that, and bringing those, really bringing that level of technology to healthcare practices. As implementers, as executors, we don't make the software. We just help them really make the best use out of the software they already have, or out of the technologies that are available to small to medium businesses. We've seen that to be a significant differentiator in terms of offering IT services to, for example, healthcare.
Awesome. You just dropped a lot of game that I think will help a lot of MSPs out there because a lot of them do not understand proper value propositions, discovery calls, how to come up with value. Now, it seems like that your guys' close rate would be pretty high, right? Walk us through what happens in the first meeting that makes people say yes.
So, different when you meet someone in their first call, different people will be in different places. So, some people will be in a place where, I mean, I'll give you one example of a
Mhm,
client that, or a prospect, that they had their QuickBooks server, a desktop
mhm,
QuickBooks server has been down for 2 weeks. Their IT, department, IT service provider just went AWOL off the grid, right? Those are people that will sign the next day because, they are not in a contract. They are not, they urgently need you, right? They're in the emergency room, so to speak, right?
mhm,
Then, you'll have some organizations, especially in healthcare, that have just like slower decision making cycles. Maybe it's a few doctors that are partnered and everyone needs to get to agree to it. Maybe they're in contract already. So there is where it takes, there I think the key becomes, I'm a big fan of paying it forward. So a lot of people will be transactional and say, hey, we cannot do X until Y. And there's definitely, your time as a MSP or IT executive is valuable, and you have to be strategic about how you use it. But having said that, I've always been a fan of the go giver mentality of just paying it forward. So I'll try to help people in whatever it is that they need help with, at least, with advice. Sometimes we'll scope out an assessment just to show them the value that we could bring to them and just kind of present a roadmap. And, then there's really just, one portion that I think a lot of people, leave their pipeline, leave their prospects on the table, which is just persistency, right? Sometimes
mhm,
when the prospect is not picking up your phone, it does not mean that they're not interested. It just means that they're busy, right? And all the more reason why they need you. So sometimes it's just really getting an understanding of, if they're not interested in your service, or if it's just not a good fit, that's fine. But sometimes they are interested in your service, they're just busy, right? So, there's the first sale, there's like the first meeting that you had asked about, but it's not only just about the first meeting is the time that you get to present yourself and make your first impression and really get an understanding of what their pain points are. But then from there, it's just about building the relationship until the point where the client gets felt comfortable to commit to, to a relationship and to a contract.
When you first walk into a healthcare practice and you first assess their IT, what is the most common disaster that you find or uncover, and what's they're doing wrong?
So there's really, again, compliance is an easy one. Often staying within, the confines of being HIPAA compliant will be, like, sometimes like you'll walk up and like, hey, how do I send you medical records? And it's going to be doctorsoffice@gmail.com. That's a red flag, right?
Huh?
Sometimes, it's I've learned that it's important to ask different people in the organization about the quality of their IT. So if you ask the owners will have, one set of issues. Maybe they're concerned about compliance, will be an often, something, or it'll be, maybe they have some sort of they don't have an understanding of their data, so they want to get some help with their data reporting. Right. But then you'll ask the person at the front desk, and their issue is, the phone calls get cut off after a
Mhm.
couple of minutes, or, they get static, right? That's something that the doctor's not really dealing with, or the owner's not really dealing with, because it's up to the person, the reception or the front desk person to take the phone call. So it really runs the gamut. And I think it's important to look. I mean, we have our assessment methodology that we've developed specifically for clinics hit just dozens and dozens of points. Some are more common, some you don't know until you ask. And so I think that's really, again, what it comes down to is pick a niche, pick an industry and learn it very well. And you'll always uncover things that other people have not uncovered and be able to show value that other people didn't even know that they could.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, on me and Jason's podcast, he mentioned that customer experience is your North Star. I mean, and having this conversation with you here, I can for sure tell, right? How does that philosophy actually show up day to day in your guys' day to day operations at Acrivos, as well as, client experience that they wouldn't get from a typical MSP?
Part of that is just being consistent about it to across the
Hmm.
board, right? Like, so, our motto is we're IT that cares. And cares means it means bringing a certain amount of passion to your job. Like when we speak to people, when we're in the interviewing process, we'll test for skill later. First, we'll assess, is the person we're speaking to, are they passionate about IT? Are they sort of considerate of other people? Like those are things that we try to pick up and see
Hmm.
first if the person we're speaking to um, is just like will match our core values. And our first core values that we care. We care about our clients. We care about their technology. We care about their staff. So it's just like deeply ingrained within our organizations. Just like to give a damn basically about our clients. And it's not that hard. It's like once you model it and then once you make it clear to your team that we're here to serve and we're here to help, you know, other healthcare organizations. And operating in areas like healthcare, there's just like some more intrinsic meaning to it because what they do then is care for their patients. So it's just
Hmm.
like, the values really align well. And there's another interesting one to it where we also, when I'm speaking to a prospect, I'll try to, if I can see that they care, like that they care about IT and that they, just generally it's to care about the relationship, then I will be like 5 times as motivated to get that business because that's business that
Hmm.
just matched. It works both ways, right? Not to say, that if someone is more formal or cold in the initial relationship, that we won't go after it, but it's just like doesn't give me that same, motivation as
Hmm.
when I talk to a client or to a manager, and I just see that they get it, they care about IT, they care about who they work with. Because at the end of the day, it's like our clients to a degree are our bosses, right? So when we interview for jobs, you want to make sure that you want to work for that person. So there's just a certain element of that and like trying to find clients that match our culture. So it's like another one that people don't think about.
Mm, brilliant. To add on top of that, so what would you say to those clients that come to you or even those medical practices, right, that only want to check the box? They only want to hit compliance, they only want to check the box, they want to do bare minimum. What would you tell them or wish they understood?
So, I mean, often sometimes I'll show them our sort of service catalog, like here are the things we do, and ask them what part is not important to you.
Mhm,
Are you willing to risk it and cut out, HIPAA compliance? Are you willing to risk it and not cut out and then like cut out protecting your email or protecting your Microsoft 365? Do you not want help desk or on-site services? Like what is it within our value that, feel is not valuable to you? And then, in our sort of differentiator, which is the healthcare side, um, do you not want to be able to pick up the phone to, healthcare CIOs, CTOs, and then just like throw any healthcare tech challenge at them? And typically people will, that's when people realize that what they're paying for, like it helps them sort of, put it into perspective. Sometimes there are clients that, or prospects rather, I should say, that they don't, what they're looking for is just a bare bone. I call them utility service IT companies, companies that like kind of just like your electrical company or, Verizon, they'll plug in to your router and that's where they, that's where they demarc That's where their demarcation point is, and they will not come into your, they're just essentially, they bring you the electricity. There are IT companies like that, and they have a place, right? Like there is a place
Mhm.
for IT companies that just do the basics. Um, and some companies have been successful doing that and in finding clients that just want that and being able to offer that service to that price point. So I think it's important for you to have your identity and know what type of services do you want to provide, what quality, what sort of amount of uh, you know, executive time do you want to put into each client to really proactively set them up to be really well, and then just find yours. And sometimes you'll encounter a client that, they're only looking to pay, $85 user or whatever their low ball
Mhm.
amount is. And, I've even told clients, hey, I know this is call XYZ MSP. They're decent. They're probably going to be at your price point. We're not them. We're better. Here's why
Mhm.
we're better. And I've sent prospects rather to, I would say, lower quality private equity giant, MSPs that just do the minimum. And, hopefully they're happy. Some come back.
Yeah, the ones that just wanna check the boxes, they're always a headache, and they're more of a headache than how much they're paying you, right? Like, I like
Very.
the kinda abbreviation that you said, or not abbreviation, the saying that you said, about your clients are like your boss, 'cause they pay you, right? And they're the ones that are telling you exactly what they want you to do, right? So if you get one that's just checking the box and your MSP is one that wants to go above and beyond and take, you know what I mean, IT very serious, then the match is not gonna be really there, right? If you
Yeah, that's
could
like working for a boss that wants to pay you bottom dollar, right? Like, maybe I'll do that
exactly.
for a bit. Sprint, I'm starting out. Like there's a case to doing that when you're starting out, for example. I've done that.
Mhm.
I've taken on really low paying clients when I started off. But that's just like you said, like the equivalent of working for a boss that will pay you minimum wage. Well, you hold on to that client or that job for just as long as you need to until you're not desperate anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. Totally agree. Where do you see the IT healthcare space going? What are some trends that you're seeing?
Oh, good question. I mean, the obvious answer to that is AI is just like rewriting the playbook on both
Mhm.
on the client experience, like, both on our internal operations of what it means to run an IT company, and then also in
Mhm.
what our clients' expectations are. And then us as technology advisors to our clients, that technology is rapidly changing. So I think anyone that could tell you that they can see what's 5 years down the road is, in maybe like the science fiction writing authorship category. I think what's
Mhm.
really more important is to have that attitude of being flexible, nimble, adaptable, in really kind of like staying up to date, reading a lot on what's in the news,
Mhm.
rolling up your sleeves and playing with it yourself, exposing yourself and staying with the times. I really think, I mean, if there's any prediction that I can make for like the 5 year, or 10-year horizon, is the people that are not adaptable will become obsolete. They'll be the equivalent of like, COBOL or Novell, which are just ancient technologies that just at some point just went out of existence and no one really uses that. So that's the only thing we know for sure is change. So you got to be really comfortable with change. And if I can add to that,
How are
if I can add something to that is that used to scare me. Like, probably, a year, 2 years ago, I was reflective on that and I was scared of that. But once I got in my head that you just have to be adaptable, I just kind of got that like almost like a reinvigorated thirst for learning. And I feel like that's been dormant in me for a few years. Like I have had that feeling a few months ago where I really understood the power of how AI can automate and transform operations, writing code, et cetera, et cetera. And it felt like the first time, you went online and you did a Google search and you just kind of get that euphoric feeling of like, wow, this is life changing. And then you just like a few days at your computer, just like really playing with that. So I've got to experience all over that, all that over again with AI, and have really been enjoying that. You know, I have just, I have not read, I've read more books in the past year than I have read in the
Mhm,
past 5 years. That has all just come from this, sort of reinvigorated mentality of, okay, it's learning time. Everything's changing.
mhm.
You got to learn. So
Yep,
I'm loving,
yep.
I'm loving the
Awesome,
roller.
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I love how like you said, like when you first open the internet and you search something up, it was mind changing. And now you get that same feeling with AI. And as one that's been knees deep, right, into Claude Code, I have that same feeling too of, hey, what can I automate? And I'm automating things that I thought that I would have need to hire somebody for. And I'm sure that you are feeling and doing the same exact thing. It's like a caveman discovering fire for the first time. That's how big, what I mean, AI is getting now and how powerful it's getting. You can now have a 3, 4, 5 man team, you know what I mean, that is doing the same workload as a 50-man team realistically with AI, the way that things are going. Now,
Absolutely.
where have you guys been using AI in the company day to day? And what have you been building? I've heard that you've built your own little it something to do with sales using Claude Code, like a custom sales app. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, two questions there. So, number one, what you're alluding to is more like in my playtime, right? Like I try to leave
Mhm,
AI play that it's just like let my mind go wild. So, we're on ConnectWise. So ConnectWise has the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly is literally ugly that it's like an older application, especially with the PSA, like ConnectWise Manage is an older application. So, in my, especially like in the earlier stages, I would just be doing something random. And because I was very heavily leaning on my network, it would just come to me, hey, I should really call that person. I haven't spoken to them in 3 years. Call, say hello, see what they're into. Maybe they need IT help, right? So
uh-huh,
I'm on the go. I'm not gonna, ConnectWise Manage is that application that you need to be in front of a computer to use it, right? So I've used Lovable, which is, kind of uses Claude, in as its LLM, but they're similar. There's Manus, there's Base 44. It's just like that category of, not only does it write the code, but it also hosts it and has like a database built in and has a front end built in. So I use that to build kind of like a chatbot that I can just, on the go, tell it to add opportunities to ConnectWise. So then the next morning
mhm,
when I'm at my computer, I see that and, I act on it. Now that is a leap to building something that is actually safe enough to give to your clients, right? Because, what we would love to is to give our clients an experience that where AI is really makes their, IT experience better. So for example, many clients will just not love the fact that they have to send an email. And when we do send an email, there's certain things that we want to collect in order to really make it an effective ticket. So just giving our clients an ability to, in a really intuitive way, put in requests, right? To automating certain things that really are not that relevant. I mean, Jason, who we've spoken to, is a big believer in you don't, level one texts by definition are reactive. And we want to push as much work as possible to proactive technicians, right? So our aim is to really hire, to start at level two and level three engineers that when they see an issue, they'll be like, this issue is dumb. It should never happen again. And then not just really fix it, but then make sure it never happens again. Uh,
mhm,
that's the kind of labor, that's the kind of people you want to have on our team. So, however, there's still going to be the password resets. There's still going to be some of those things that you need a help desk or level one tech for, right? So, a lot of that can be automated. Or at least we're keeping the finger on the pulse of the industry to, kind of find what can be automated today, what will be able to be automated in the near future. But all that, needs to anything client facing needs to be built in a way where by resetting their own password, it cannot accidentally reset, their neighbor's password, right? Part of our approach to AI.
Mhm.
Then another component is to really supplement our engineer knowledge and make reading the manual,
Mhm.
right? So, we've had, the this saying in IT for the longest time, RTFM, have you read the freaking manual, right? So, one end, it's kind of difficult to wade through Microsoft documentation to find the specific answer, right? On the other hand, we don't want the knowledge, the AI knowledge that our engineers lean into to find answers to issues, to not just be the wild, wild west AI, right? We want it to be in a secure way informed by the context of our client's environment. So
Mhm.
part of what we're kind of, trying to figure out and working towards is how can we build a kind of like a knowledge base that
Mhm.
is AI enabled, that has all the context of our clients, of all the documentation that we have copiously created when we onboarded them or as new things came along, and pair that with just like the general intelligence of AI, and make and make life easier for engineers, make them more effective and more efficient. So that's one of those things that we've been working towards. So none of these things are emerging, and that's where I come back to. You have to be very comfortable with building something that becomes halfway obsolete tomorrow or a lot better tomorrow. So it's a lot about keeping up with the times and whatever you're building out or whatever piece of software you're buying. Just like looking around the corner, and seeing and making sure that makes sense.
Mhm. Brilliant, Yakir, brilliant. So now, at this point in the year where we just basically started Q2, right? It's only, you know what I mean, so many days into April. What are some of your guys' growth goals here in the rest of 2026? Any milestones you guys want to hit? Any more clients you guys want to land in these upcoming months? Take us kind of through that.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to keep, so as far as qualitative, in a qualitative way, answer to that is like we want to hone in on the healthcare portion. In
Mhm.
specifically, we want to hone in on creating a program that makes our uh, offering to healthcare clients really valuable, really that kind of service
Mhm.
that they can't subscribe to. So, we're leaning into the 40 years combined knowledge of healthcare IT, healthcare technology to really build out a framework of a technology program that we can offer to our clients. So that's a big goal for 2026.
Mhm.
We want to grow at a safe, stable pace. So it's just about understanding our capacity, um, in hiring at the right pace, bringing in clients at the right pace. When you have a good value proposition like that, finding clients is easier. But then you got to pace yourself and make sure that when you're onboarding clients, you are um, not doing it at a pace that is not sustainable.
Mhm.
you know, we're onboarding clients monthly. I'm grateful for that. It's, a result of us, our great team, and the effort that we've put into both our operations and into our sales.
Mhm.
And it's so building out our value set and building out our value program, and bringing in more clients.
Awesome. Now, Yakir, if the audience wants to hear more about you, hear from you, or see exactly what the company's up to, where can they find you?
Yeah. Um, so if you just want to, follow along, I occasionally post on LinkedIn and both our company page and my personal page. If you want to reach out to me directly, my phone number is 347-666-0244. Call me, text me. If you have any reason why you'd want to talk to me, I'd love to hear from you. My email is Yakir, Yakir, at acrivos.com.
Awesome. Well, Yakir, this was quite a long one, but I think that you had a lot of valuable insight that a lot of MSPs can take away from. So I'm glad that you decided to hop on the podcast with us and give us your insight.
Yeah, I had a great time, and those were some really thought-provoking questions. So it was great spending time with you.
Awesome. Well, there you guys go. See you guys in the next episode.